Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you're new, and today we are going to be making 2 lunches for the freezer. These could also be dinners, but I'm kind of thinking I'm going to make them for lunches. I went ahead and shopped my pantry and my freezers to come up with these recipes. I didn't buy anything in order to do this. I've got onions that desperately need to be used up. I started earlier today and chopped a few. I'm going to show you what some of these look like from last year's garden that need to be used up. We've got potatoes, sweet potatoes, lard, and carrots. I am in the middle of a pantry challenge where my goal is not to go grocery shopping for this entire month, and I kind of wanted to get some lunch freezer meals in my freezer so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can use up a bunch of the garden fresh produce that we grew in last year's garden, and I can fill my freezer with some convenient items. So the first thing we're gonna make are pasties, and we're gonna do 2 flavors. We're gonna do the traditional potato and beef, but when I was thinking about what I wanted to make today, I thought I've got sweet potatoes and sausage from a local farmer that needs to be used up. Why don't we make a sweet potato and sausage one as well? So we're gonna make the dough first because this needs to cool in the refrigerator for an hour and a half before we can roll it out. So while this is resting, we will get all the vegetables prepped, and we're gonna start our second recipe, which is gonna be pizza. So we have hot water. We're gonna make a hot water crust. This is my mother-in-law's recipe. My mother-in-law is from an area in the country where pasties are really popular and they are delicious, and I haven't made them in a year, so we're gonna get some ready for the freezer. They freeze beautifully. So what we need to do is melt our lard. This is home rendered lard from a pasture-raised pig I bought from a local farmer, and you and I rendered this lard together. And we're gonna use this hot water to melt the lard. We use equal parts fat to water, and we're gonna make 24 of these. So this is a lot. Got a big bowl here. Now we're gonna add 12 cups of all-purpose flour. This is a 2-cup measure, so I'm gonna add 6 of these. And it looks like I need to go grab some more flour from the downstairs pantry, so I'll be right back. And just like that, we are back in business. So my big bucket of flour is almost gone down there, and I've got one in the freezer, so hopefully we have enough flour to make our pizza pockets, because that's the next thing we're gonna make for lunches is some pizza pockets. So here we've got I need salt. I'm gonna add some salt. And now we're gonna mix this together. We may need to add a bit more flour, but we'll know once we kind of get the dough mixed together and see if we need to. The nice thing about this pastry recipe is it's not one you have to worry about over mixing because the fat is already melted, unlike a shortbread or like a pastry that you were gonna make a pie out of. You don't have to worry about over mixing this one so much. And I will get in there with my hands in a minute after I get most of it mixed in together. I don't think I'm going to need to add any more flour to this. I did clean my counters before we got started, knowing we were gonna use them in this process today. I'm just gonna knead this together a little bit. Now we're gonna take our dough, put it back in our bowl, cover it, and we're gonna pop this in the fridge for at least an hour and a half. It might take a little bit longer because we doubled the dough recipe. And now that that's going, we can get going on our pizza crust, because obviously that's gonna need to double in size as well. So for the pizza dough, that's what we're gonna get going on next. I just grabbed the ingredients we need. I'm gonna use this really big bowl because we need to obviously give the dough area to rise. We're gonna start with warm water. I'm gonna start with 3 cups. I think I'm gonna need to get a little bit more water. Yep, just a little bit. I normally would put sugar in this, but my sugar has vanilla flavor to it right now that's in my pantry right here. And so I'm gonna use honey as a substitute. And generally in bread, I interchange honey and sugar relatively easily, just depending on what I have on hand and what's easiest to grab. So we're gonna get that in there, and then we're gonna let our yeast proof for just a minute. I have active dry yeast. I'm gonna mix that in with the water just so that it can hydrate a little bit and get started. The sugar so the yeast can start feeding on that. We're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes. While we're waiting for that yeast to get going, we need to brown up some Italian sausage for the pizza pockets. So I went ahead and I thawed last night in the refrigerator 2 pounds of Italian sausage. I just stuck them completely frozen in the fridge and they are perfectly thawed now. I'm not gonna put any oil in this pan because this sausage will have enough, it won't need it. So that I'll have just less stuff to drain when this is cooked. So I'm gonna go wash my hands. And we're gonna get this kind of broken up just a little bit. And then we can start shredding some cheese that we're gonna need for the pizza pockets. I have done hardly anything to prepare for today. I guess I did start cutting these onions and then I figured I might as well get ready for the day, come back and prep all the veggies once I have my doughs made, because those are gonna take a while to rise and to rest. So it didn't really make sense for me to prep all the vegetables and then make the dough, because then I would be just waiting around. I'm gonna use my food processor to shred my cheese just to save me some time. So I'm gonna pull all the components out for that. All right, in the time it took for our yeast to proof, we've got our cheese shredded, our sausage going, and now we can go ahead and finish out our pizza dough. You can see how nice and bubbly this is. So now we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. I'm gonna add 8 cups of flour. I might need to get out some bread flour. I think I'm gonna add 2 cups of bread flour to supplement the all-purpose flour. Now I'm gonna add salt and a 1/4 cup of oil. So 1, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons. I'm definitely gonna get in here with my hands, but I'm gonna start with this wooden spoon. I was a little heavy-handed with the flour, I think, so we'll see how this dough comes together. I did not add 2 additional cups of bread flour. I substituted in 2 cups of bread flour for 2 cups of all-purpose flour because I wanted to make sure I had some all-purpose flour for some things we're gonna need later on. I'm gonna knead this until it forms a smooth, elastic dough. If I need to pull some of this flour out of here, I will, but I think this is probably a pretty good amount of flour we have. It just needs to be worked for a little bit. I've been kneading this for probably 5 or 6 minutes, and now we've got a nice elastic dough. I went ahead and dumped out that excess flour I had in this bowl. And what I'm gonna do now, I think I'm just gonna take, since I've got some olive oil here, pour a little bit in the bottom, use my dough, put that around, I don't want my dough to dry out when it rises. Perfect. I have a damp cloth here. I'm gonna put this over the top and we're gonna let this rise for about an hour. Our sausage is almost done. I wanna crumble it up just a little bit more. I like the color on this now, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. And I need to get this onto a paper towel to drain any excess fat. If you want to know a trick to make this easier to clean this pan, I'm going to put a little water, put it back on a high heat, and we're going to deglaze this pan as if you were going to make a pan sauce or something, and all of that cooked on part is going to come off. It is actually a benefit to the fact that stainless steel pans stick like this, because if you are building a pan sauce, you want that flavor. You want that caramelized kind of stuck on bits. That's building flavor, and you don't get that from a non-stick pan. But they can be a pain to clean if you don't take the time to throw a little bit of water on it, put it back on the heat, let the stove basically do the work of scrubbing it. So I usually will do this. I'll get any big pieces off that are kind of stuck on there pretty good. I'll rinse this out and then throw this in the dishwasher and it'll come out perfectly clean. I have this whole bowl of chopped onions, and these are going to be for the pasties, the sausage ones and the beef ones. I've got 2 more onions here. I'm gonna slice these super thin for my pizza pockets. And probably next week sometime, I'm gonna need to go through all the onions I grew and freeze dry them, freeze them, or do something with them, because I don't think that they cured very well compared to the ones I bought from the local farmer. And so there is some parts that need to be cut off, which is fine. They're still salvageable, but if I can get to them this week, I'll be able to salvage more than if I let them go and sit down there for a little bit. So I've just got 2 onions here, pretty small, but it's gonna be plenty for what we need for the pizza pockets. I've got a compost bowl here, so whatever we're not gonna put into our meal, I'll go ahead and throw in the compost to feed back to the garden. In the pizza pockets, you could put whatever you like in pizza: mushrooms, pepperonis, olives. Josh and I really like onion and sausage in our pizza. I'm gonna cut these pretty thin, and I'm only gonna put a couple slices in each pocket. For the pasties, I need to peel and chop carrots, peel and chop potatoes, both white potatoes and sweet potatoes. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna go ahead and just start peeling these. I could actually peel them right into my compost bowl. I know that I'm probably gonna need a bigger compost bowl. And then I'm gonna wash these really, really well after I get everything peeled. I'm not gonna go through all these potatoes for these pasties, so when I'm picking the potatoes in my basket, I'm going and picking the ones that look like need to be used first. This is my mother-in-law's recipe, and it does call for, which will be linked down below, carrots, yellow onions, rutabaga. I don't have rutabaga, so I'm just going to use the equivalent. It calls for 5 cups of diced rutabaga. I'm just gonna substitute a few more carrots and a few more onions and a few more potatoes in substitution for the rutabaga. The rutabaga does have really good flavor, but I already have this on hand, so I'd rather use what I already have in my pantry. And I've never attempted to grow rutabaga before. I think I have enough traditional potatoes for the regular pasties. Now the pasty that I'm making up, I'm gonna go ahead and start peeling these sweet potatoes. These sweet potatoes need to be used, so I'm just going to use all of these sweet potatoes because they are definitely showing signs that they need to be used up. So I don't want them to go to bad, so we're just gonna use all of them. This one has a little spot that needs to just be cut off. No big deal. Now I'm gonna get going on my carrots. I think I have prepped all the vegetables we need. We may need some more, but I got to cut all these and measure them out to see if we do. I'm gonna wash my cutting board and I'm gonna go wash all my potatoes and carrots. And I think what I'm gonna do is I need separate bowls for my different vegetables. I think I'm gonna grab out a bowl. In this bowl, I'm gonna put my sweet potatoes after I wash them because those are gonna be for the separate pasty. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put some water in that bowl as well because sweet potatoes can turn brown and oxidize, and I don't want that to happen while I'm prepping all of the rest of the vegetables. I'm gonna need another bowl for my regular potatoes so these ones don't turn brown too. I think what I'm gonna do is go dump my compost real quick so I can use that bowl. We've got quite a bit of compost. I'm back from the compost. I am gonna wash this bowl out before I stick my potatoes in it. I just washed off my cutting board and my knife, and we can start chopping our vegetables. I checked on the pizza dough and it is rising, which is fantastic, but it's got a little bit more to rise before we're ready to make our pockets. So I did run downstairs and get some pizza sauce because we're gonna need that when we make our pizza pockets. And so let's go ahead and start chopping our vegetables. I rinsed out my colander and I'm gonna start measuring some ingredients into here. And let's start with, we need 2 cups of onions. And I have found that if I follow the measurements that my mother-in-law has laid out in this recipe, then it fills 12 pasties really well. So that's our 2 cups of onions. We still need to chop and dice our potatoes and carrots. And I finally pulled this out. I've had this for quite some time. It's a chopper. It comes with different size chopping blades. It's been on my list of things to do, and I'm really excited that today is the day. So I'm gonna slice these just a little bit. I'm gonna stick them on here, and we're gonna, now that, oh my goodness, okay. It's gonna chop them evenly. This is gonna be perfect for this application because I have so many I need to do. I'm just gonna slice those a little bit. All right, friend, I love this thing. Just took me to use it one time. Pasties are made using raw potato, onion, carrot, and rutabaga if you're using rutabaga. And so it does help if you cut them on the little bit smaller side so that they cook fully in the oven.
And so that's why I am using the small dice blade with this chopper, and I am slicing them a little bit beforehand just so that they're small going into the pasty.
Friend, that is amazing. I love the dice that it put on these. They're all even. How awesome is that? So now what I need to do is measure out 5 cups of diced potato. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost at 5. I'm gonna keep cutting these. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and sliver up all these potatoes because I still am gonna need to add the equivalent of 5 cups of rutabaga, but we're gonna use the potatoes and carrots as substitute. So I'm just gonna use all these potatoes. So that's perfect. That was actually the perfect amount. And now I'm gonna go ahead and chop the rest of these carrots using our chopper. I can link this thing down below. I am a convert. I really like it. I really, really do. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my carrots and I need to get them so that they'll fit in the chopper. So I'm just gonna cut them in half. Once so they'll fit in the chopper, and the other way just so that we've got a good even consistency for our filling. I'm gonna use the same size. That's what's really cool about this, is that everything is gonna be the same size. Okay, so carrots are a little bit harder to do. When it comes to the carrots, you can't put quite as many in here at one time, just because the carrots are so much harder than the potato, that it's hard to snap this thing closed. So I need 2 cups of carrot. There's 1. So I need 1 more cup for this batch. And then for the sweet potato batch, I'm just going to measure out how many cups of carrots we have. 1, 2.5. I love this thing. Now I'm gonna call that 3. Now I'm gonna add 2 cups of onions to this. And now we need 10 cups of sweet potato. If I don't have 10 cups of sweet potato here, I will add more onion to make up the difference. And I have found it helps if you kind of get a bunch of these sliced up and ready to go in the chopper before you start chopping. I think it's easiest to tell with these sweet potatoes how evenly these sweet potatoes are diced up. I do not have the knife skills at this point to get this even and small of a dice on a potato, so I'm happy with that. The very last thing that needs to be chopped is now chopped. So we're gonna measure this out. That is perfect. Literally the perfect amount we needed for this. I don't know why I'm measuring that out. I'm just gonna add the rest of it in here. I covered my potatoes with water so that they wouldn't turn brown while we make our pizza pockets. You can see how nice and pillowy this is. I also re-cleaned my countertops. Sorry, that was a little squeaky. Because I know that I'm gonna use my counter to start shaping out these pizza pockets. So I wanna make sure these are kind of even in shape. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I actually have my cutting board here that I also cleaned. So I'm gonna cut this dough, so I might as well cut it on the cutting board since I have it sitting right here. So first I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I think what I'm gonna do is roll it up into a log. So I can try to get it into even portions. So let's think how many I want to portion this out into. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact by any means. The less portions you have, the bigger the serving. The smaller, the more pockets you have. 2, 4, 6, 8. We're gonna get 16 pockets out of this. Perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take each one of my sections of dough, I'm gonna roll them in on each themselves, and I'm gonna make a little dough ball. Each one of these is going to be one little pizza. I have preheated my oven. I'm turning the dough onto itself so that I have the gluten a little bit more organized. It'll just make the top look a little bit nicer.
If you wanted to make these, but you didn't want to go through the effort of making your own dough, you could buy a frozen dough, like Rhodes frozen rolls would be perfect. Let those rise, and when those have risen, then you can turn those into pizza pockets or chicken ranch pockets or whatever type of filling you like. Go ahead and use that, and you can get the same effect. But I have to tell you, homemade dough is delicious.
Now we have all of our components for our pizza pockets. Onions, pizza sauce, dough, cheese, meat. I definitely think I have more cheese and sausage than we're going to need, but that is totally fine because I'll just freeze whatever we don't use, or I'll put in the refrigerator whatever we don't use. If we don't use all of that cheese, it most certainly will not go to waste in my house. I'm looking for my rolling pin. So now we can actually turn these into pizza pockets. So I'm gonna open this jar of pizza sauce. Don't do that with your knife. This jar is extremely sealed. There we go. Smells so good. Now I'm gonna take a piece of dough and I'm gonna roll it out into a circle. You could turn these into mini calzones if you want, and put half the filling on half of this, turn it over and crimp the edges. But I want these to be little pockets. So I'm going to take my flattened dough. You could use whatever kind of flavoring your family likes. A spoonful of pizza sauce. Good amount of cheese. Some sausage. An onion for good measure. Just a couple pieces. Now I'm gonna take the ends and pinch them together. And you know what I don't have out yet is a cookie sheet, so I need to get that out. I wanna try to make sure it's all sealed nicely so it doesn't explode in the oven. And there's our first pizza pocket.
These are so delicious. The honey as opposed to the sugar really adds to the flavor, and I think I'm going to do that from now on. That's the one thing when you're cooking is sometimes you find your new favorite thing when you do substitutes. Sometimes substitutes don't turn out at all, and sometimes they turned out perfect. The honey definitely came through, and it was so yummy. And I know traditional hot pockets that you get at the freezer section in the store are not actually a pizza dough. I think they are more of like a pizza dough pastry kind of hybrid, but these are so incredibly delicious and you will love them.
Just in case they stick a little bit, I decided I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit of spray down on the bottom of this parchment, just so that I don't have any problems getting these up if they kind of spill out their end a little bit. It's so convenient having things like this prepped in the freezer because I can pull a few out and I can warm them up in the oven. I can warm them up in the microwave. If you had an air fryer, you could warm them up in an air fryer. It does help to reheat them when they are thawed than when they're frozen, but you can reheat them from frozen. They just reheat a little bit better if you thaw them. So typically what I do with something like this for meal prep is I will pull a bag out of the freezer, and we'll plan to have those for lunches for, you know, a day or two. But sometimes I forget and I pull them directly out of the freezer and we have them reheated from frozen. And I'm pretty good at overstuffing these pizza pockets. And if they all come out a little bit different shaped, they're still gonna taste delicious. So I'm gonna keep doing this until I have all 16 done. And I will need to grab out another cookie sheet because I think I'm only gonna get 8 on each cookie sheet. I have 8 of them done. I have 8 more to go. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get these ones in the oven and they can go ahead and start cooking while I make the last 8. I am gonna put a little egg wash on these. While these were cooking, I went ahead and did a little reset on my kitchen. I cleaned the island. I got it all ready to go so that when we make our pasties, we've got a good surface area to do that. These first ones look done, so I'm gonna pull these out of the oven and let them cool. These ones still need a little bit more time. So while those are still cooking, we can finish up the filling for the pasties. I'm gonna need some bowls to mix the filling in, and I went ahead and drained my filling because I had put water over this just so that the white potatoes didn't oxidize while we were making the pizza pockets. Now I'm gonna strain the sweet potato one. I'm gonna let that strain just a little bit and sit in the colander in the sink, and I can go ahead and put the rest of the ingredients in these 2 bowls. So per each recipe, we need 2 pounds of meat. The one with the regular potatoes calls for ground beef, so that's what I have here. This is kind of cool because the pork sausage that we're gonna put in the one with the sweet potatoes, that is the same pork that I used to render the lard with that we used to make the crust. And the onions are homegrown, the regular potatoes, the carrots are homegrown. This beef is from a local farmer, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, and so that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna get 2 pounds of beef in this one. In that bowl where we're gonna put the sweet potatoes, I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 pounds of sausage. I happen to have Italian sausage here, but you could use breakfast sausage or whatever you'd like. Get that in there. That in there. I just got my hands really, really washed. I'm gonna add the last few ingredients. I'm gonna add a tablespoon and a half of salt. This is a lot of ingredients, and so it can handle that with all the potatoes, but if you didn't want to add that much, go ahead and reduce that. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of pepper. Remember, this is 2 pounds of meat plus almost 16 cups of potatoes and carrots and onions. I'm letting my sweet potatoes drain just a little bit because I don't want a bunch of moisture in my filling mixture. And we need butter for the beef one. I'm not gonna put butter on the pork one just because the beef is super, super lean and it can do for a little bit of butter. But the pork, I'm not gonna add any butter. And we're gonna make 12 pasties out of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pre-cut my butter so that I don't have to worry about cross-contamination later. So if I don't use, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm gonna put 2 little pieces in each one. 6. Once I have my butter cut, the butter that I'm not gonna end up using, I can put that back away. And then now I'm going to prep the dough for the pasties while I'm still just waiting for my sweet potatoes to drain. So this dough, it's a unique texture. If you've never used a hot water crust before, it's very unique. It's not anything like a pizza or yeast dough. It's not anything like a
pastry dough, something that you would use for biscuits. It's very pliable and flexible, but what's crazy to me is when you bake this up in the oven, it is so flaky. And it's just so interesting because the butter and the water and the flour are all melted together. And it's just something that's super unique. If you've ever watched the Great British Baking Show, they use hot water crust a lot when they make those Victorian style pies. And that would be fun at some point to make something like that. I think the origins of the pasty come from that. Originally, pasties were coal miner staples because they had your protein and your root vegetables. And a lot of women, when they would make pasties back in the day, is they would make half of it with the savory filling, and then the other half they would put jam or apples or something like that, so that the coal miners could have their lunch and their dessert all in one. And they were really easy for them to bring down in the mines with them. So it's just something that's super interesting and super delicious if you've never had one of these. And I have to say, the sweet potato sausage one is my new favorite. Josh loves both, but my new favorite, and the way I might make them moving forward, is with the sweet potato and sausage, because it was, or is, so delicious. So here I've evenly distributed my dough into 24 pieces because we're going to get 12 of each flavor. And then I'm doing the same thing I did with the pizza dough. I'm going to roll them into a ball before we start making our pasties.
All the dough is ready to go to be rolled out. Our pockets, these ones exploded just a little bit more than the other ones. And I think that's because I stuffed these ones a little bit. So we will probably eat these ones for dinner tonight and for lunch the next couple days. And those ones that did not explode will go into the freezer for meal prep. Now what I need to do, I'm looking at my recipe. I need to turn this oven down because we're gonna bake the pasties at 350. I want to go ahead and get the filling mixture mixed up for our pasties. The sweet potatoes and carrots were able to drain for just a little bit. Get these in here. And then I do want to add one more seasoning that I forgot to add earlier, and that is some garlic powder. I think I'm going to do a heaping tablespoon of garlic powder. Maybe I'll just add another half, so I did 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. And I'm going to go ahead and get in there with some gloves and my hands, and I'm just going to mix these up really well. The best way to mix this is definitely with your hands. It's kind of hard to mix it with a spoon, and so that's what we're going to do today. Oh, it smells really good. That garlic, delicious. I'm really excited about these sweet potato and sausage ones. I love sweet potato and sausage together. So this, I think, is going to be just absolutely fabulous. And you do put the meat in there raw, and then you cook the meat and the veggies all together in the oven. That's one reason why you want to make sure that you cut your veggies kind of on the smaller side, just so that everything has the chance to cook in the oven. They do take a good hour to bake in the oven. So what I probably should do is get my other oven preheated at the same time. I just put the pizza pockets on a cooling rack. I have not eaten today. I couldn't help myself. That is so good. That little break I just had, enjoying that pizza pocket, was absolutely wonderful. So now we're gonna start working on these pasties. So 12 of these are gonna be for the beef, 12 of them are gonna be for the pork. I need to get my rolling pin back out. And I have found that it works a little bit quicker if I do an assembly line. I'm gonna go ahead and get just some flour in this cup and then If I don't use all this flour, I'll just toss it because we are going to be working on rolling and filling these pasties. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna roll out 6 at a time. That way, when I go to use my filling mixture, I can cut that in half and I can use that half to fill the 6. And I think that's the way I'm gonna be able to do it efficiently and a way that I can make sure I evenly distribute the filling mixture. I love the feel of this pastry. It's so soft and supple. It's just really, really nice. You wanna roll it out to about an 8-inch circle because we put about 1.5 cups of filling in each one of these pieces of dough. So there's one. I do want to try to keep it into a circle. This dough is really easy to work with. You don't have to worry about, you know, the butter melting or anything like that because there is no butter in it. I want to make sure that I have flour under these so they don't stick on me while I'm rolling out the rest of them. If these seem to not be sticking on the counter, I might roll out all 12 and get a good assembly line going. I'm so excited for Josh to get home today and try the pizza pocket. I think he's gonna really like it. I think I liked the honey in the dough better than when I actually put sugar in it. I feel like I could taste it when I was enjoying that pizza pocket. Make sure these aren't sticking. So that's 6 rolled out. These don't seem to be sticking too badly, so I'm just gonna keep rolling them out.
I normally only make 1 recipe's worth of these at a time, which is 12, and one of these is a very hearty meal. So typically when we have these, we only ever eat one, and I don't usually make sides because one is hearty enough. If we have these for lunch, a lot of times Josh and I will actually share one, and then I might make like a side salad or something like that to go along with it. And the reason I like to make at least 12, which is a full batch, and this time I'm making 24, is because they do take a little bit of time between the chopping and the rolling out of the pastry, and they take about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes to bake, and they freeze so well and reheat so well. I like to make a big batch.
Okay, we got all 12 rolled out. I'm really proud of us.
This is the first time I've ever rolled out 12 pieces of dough at one time and went through and filled them all at one time, and this is how I'm going to be making them from here on out because it is so much more efficient and so much easier, especially with dividing the filling between each one of these. The first time I ever made these, I actually did make them with my mother-in-law. We made them together. And I was thinking, there is no way we are going to get all of this filling into these 12 pasties. But you can do it. It's about 1.5 cups worth of filling in each one. So I went through and I put the filling on each one, and then I put 2 pats of butter on each one. That way I didn't forget. Sometimes I forget the butter, and this time I was determined not to. And that is another benefit of doing them all at once. And then I fold the pastry over on itself like you're going to make a calzone. I do put a little bit of water along where the seam is going to be so it sticks together. And then I crimp the edges. And then I'm going to get this onto a parchment lined baking sheet. You can put these relatively close together because they don't rise or anything like that. And so I can fit quite a few on each baking sheet. So I'm going to get them on here, pinch the edges, and I'm going to keep doing that until we have all 12 of these done.
I have 6 pasties done, and I have run out of cookie sheet space. So I have these garlic pucks. This is just garlic that I got peeled from Costco in a huge bag. I blended it in the food processor. I used my cookie scoop to put them into tablespoon measures. And then I put it in the freezer to freeze. And I need this cookie sheet. So I'm gonna take all this garlic off here, and I am double bagging it. Whoop, lost one. Because I don't want the garlic to smell up my freezer. So I've found that if you just use 2 Ziploc bags, that's not a problem. I would not use my reusable silicone bags for this unless it's the only thing I ever use them for, because they would smell like garlic from here on out. But I will get a new piece of parchment paper. My dog is at my feet and he wants nothing to do with the garlic pack. I will go ahead and just compost that. But here I have now tons of garlic for use in the next coming months. I'm going to go ahead and toss this piece of parchment and grab one more out. Stick this in the freezer. I have just a couple more I need to roll out to. And then we can get these with an egg wash and get these in the oven. And then I'm gonna roll out all my pastry for the second set. These are gonna take a solid hour to cook. Halfway through, I'm gonna rotate them. I still have 12 more to make. What I'm gonna do, clean my entire counter. Then, I'm gonna roll out all the dough. Then, I'm gonna put the filling in, close them up just like I did, and I will put them in my other oven. So it's gonna take me a second just to reset this island, get everything nice and clean, and then start with the last 12.
You could get really creative with the fillings with this. The fact that I got creative on this day has really got my wheels turning. You could use whatever type of root vegetable your family really enjoys. Parsnips, turnips, different types of potatoes, and really just let your imagination go. When I watched the Great British Bake Off, they use this type of crust and make the most unique types of pies. You know, I was also just thinking, you could use whatever kind of ground meat you want. Breakfast ones of these would be really, really delicious using breakfast sausage or even putting some crumbled bacon in there. If I put bacon in these, I would definitely cook the bacon so that it's crispy before it goes in there, just because I don't like the texture of soft bacon. But you could also do different types of ground turkey or chicken, just whatever your family prefers. You could really get creative. So these ones are now done. Filled, I mean, they still have to cook, and we're going to put an egg wash on them. And I did vent the other ones that are already in the oven, and we're going to pop these in the oven. You want to cook them until they reach an internal temperature of at least 165, because you want to make sure that that ground meat is cooked all the way through. And if you cook the meat until it's that temperature, they're going to turn golden brown on the outside. I've never had the crust get too cooked before the internal temperature, and that is also going to allow the vegetables to get really soft and tender and delicious. These were a winner. I have absolutely loved them, and they have come in handy on times that I don't want to cook. I am not available to cook for my family. They can grab these out of the freezer. These reheat from frozen, and they reheat from thawed really well. You can reheat them in the oven, in an air fryer, in the microwave, however your preferred method to reheat them is, and they just turn out really delicious, and they come in handy on nights when you don't have the time or energy to cook.
I'm gonna get the last of the pasties out. I have spent, I don't know, maybe the last half an hour or so cleaning up the kitchen. I have the dishwasher going. Look at this. Yum! So one of these is more than enough for Josh and I for a meal. They are very, very hearty. So this is so much meal prep. I want to get these off here and get them onto a cooling rack. We have eaten the pizza pockets for dinner and they were fantastic. By far the best pizza pockets I've ever made. My whole entire family loved them and I'm excited to have those done. These are cooled, so I'm just gonna put these in some of my reusable silicone bags, put them in the freezer. They won't last long. They will be gone relatively quickly. The pasties, once these are completely cool, I wanna get those ones on a cooling rack. I don't want them sitting in the moisture on the pan. Once these are completely cool, I will probably pop them in the fridge. And then I will, tomorrow when they're cold, I will get my vacuum sealer out and I will vacuum seal these. That is how I've done it in the past. And it's worked really well to keep them nice and fresh for a good long time. I think I can fit one more on here. But I don't like them cooling on the rack because I don't like them, I want them to get nice and crispy on the bottom. Or stay nice and, you know, crispy, not get soggy on the bottom. 3 more here. See if I can get 3 more on these cooling racks without flinging one. You know what I should have done? I should have done different type of holes on the top so I would easily know which one is which. But I didn't do that. I know that this whole one is the sausage and sweet potato, and these 3 are the beef. Okay, I can stack those are not so hot anymore. So what a great way to spend the afternoon in the kitchen. It's already 7 o'clock right now. I did not get started on this project until pretty late in the afternoon. Turn the oven off, both the ovens are off now. Dishwasher is going, sink is empty, so it's been a fantastic day. So friend, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me in my kitchen. We did this all with things that I had in my pantry, in my refrigerators, in my freezers. So tons of meal prep without having to go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of things in order to do it. And we were able to use a bunch of the garden produce, so we know that they're now in meals and they are not gonna go to waste. So it's super fantastic. So thank you for being here. If you want to watch some of my other videos, I can pop some videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.